Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres, so join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw. Sean Liang will not be with us today. He is currently doing what he does best. He is acting. However, I am joined by three very reputable film critics and podcasters in their own right. Mr. Mike White of the Projection Booth podcast.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me
Mr. Quinn
back.
Fleming of many a Kulturecast guest co-hosting spots. Don't sound too excited. And film critic for CultureShock.com, Oscar Moreno. And a film director and a jack of all trades, Oscar Moreno.
Yes.
You're welcome. And today we're going to be talking about Ran from 1985, Akira Kurosawa's film that is a loose adaptation of King Lear. But before we get to that film, starting with Mike, have you guys been watching anything this week?
Well, I just am getting back from the new Ghostbusters film, so I know you're excited to hear what I have to say about that. It felt really kind of thrown together. It really needed, it needed some editing, and it needed some better writing. I mean, that whole thing that seems to be the thing in comedies now, where you have a comedian say like 10 jokes, and then you pick out, for some reason, the 3 or 4 best rather than the 1 best, and you just kind of leave them all hanging there. It's got to stop. I mean, it's just all these kind of half-hitting jokes that don't really do anything, and there's not a whole lot of characters in this film. I mean, the one girl that everybody is saying is like the breakout star, I'm just like, well, she's kind of like a cartoon character, and there's really nothing going on with any of them. I mean, the most fleshed out character is the African-American woman, and we have no idea why she leaves her job at New York Transit. I don't know. There's a lot of problems with the movie.
A lot of problems that have nothing to do with the cast. 99% of my problems with the movie are the writing. And Paul Feig, I don't want to go too much into this because we will be doing a podcast over it later this week. Paul Feig, for someone who says that men aren't funny and women are funny, he wrote this huge Esquire article about how men aren't funny. No shit, dude. You aren't funny. He is not funny. His comedic writing is so just... I mean, I know that he's written other scripts for other movies, but I want to give the credit to other people and have, and him just be kind of, I did some editing, so I get the writing credit.
Yeah, it's just so tin-eared. I mean, the whole thing with Chris Hemsworth is just like, come on.
People aren't like that. Like, for a film that's been misogynistically paraded around town because if you say something bad about it, you're a misogynist. It sure engages in a lot of men hating, which is misandry, which is the opposite of misogyny.
and then even just the thin, I mean, just all the characters are so thin. There's just nothing to them. I mean, our villain, it's like, give me one scene of him like plotting rather than him at the cafe drawing on a placemat or something. It's like, give me something, dude. There's just nothing there.
It's women fighting nerdy men. Get it?
Which is fine. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. But give me more of Kevin Smith in his basement in Die Hard 4, you know? It's like, give me something. I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't that
super
impressed.
Cheap and rushed. It was really rushed.
Let's be honest here. This is a movie about fighting ghosts, and it's supposed to be fun. And if you make it into something where it's like men versus women, women's rights, something like that.
No, I mean, you're
well, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't even that fun. I mean, they managed to catch one ghost, and I was like, "Where's the montage of them like kicking ass and catching ghosts?" And it just seemed to be almost like tech porn, almost a little bit, just all the stuff, and then that weird scene with the gadgets in the middle, where it was just like, okay, well, this is obviously cut into this film. Because it's like they start the scene with her saying, Melissa McCarthy saying, "Oh, the mayor says it's okay for us to keep fighting ghosts." I'm like, no, he didn't say that. Well, I just watched the previous scene. You were in that scene, and he said it's not okay for you to do that. They do this whole thing with them getting these new gadgets. They cut back to the movie, and I was just like, where the hell? Why did you have to stick that scene in, and why did you stick it in there? It just made no sense.
It's because they had to have that character get his bicycle blown up.
Oh God, it was so sloppy.
I wasn't expecting anything great from it. I went in giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I shouldn't have.
Yeah, and then so I watched that. I watched The Green Room last night, which I was really, really meh on. I mean, so many people had talked about how fantastic it was, and I was just like, doesn't really do it for me. It was shot in Confuso-Vision, so I'm just like, wait, who is that guy? Is that the guy with the green hair, or is that the guy without the... Who is this guy? Is that a bad... Yeah, so I had no fucking idea.
How dare you speak ill will of Anton Yelchin's last film, Mike? Oh, Jesus.
Never mind.
Actually, I guess Anton Yelchin's final film is Star Trek that comes out this coming week.
Oh, I'm sure he's got a few more films, and I'm sure he does. No, I'm not being mean, but I'm saying like he's probably got quite a few films in the can, because he probably wrapped Star Trek in quite a few months ago, so he's probably got at least another 2 or 3 movies.
I'm not trying to be mean, guys. I swear.
I think Robin Williams still has films coming out. James Gandolfini's got a new one next week.
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, my God. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's got a new soundtrack by Tupac.
Wow. Biggie Smalls, too. What about you, Oscar? You been watching anything?
Yeah, well, I've been watching Stranger Things on Netflix. Like, I wasn't really planning on it, but, you know, I decided to give it a shot because people have been like buzzing about it, and so far, you know, it's quite good. Like it doesn't escape. Like obviously, like
I know it's like some sort of like 80s-esque show, right?
Yeah, it's you know, you can definitely. It has a little bit of Stephen King. It has a little bit of Spielberg. It has a little bit of I don't know. I wouldn't say a little bit of a John Hughes thing going on in it. It's just this. It's definitely a homage to, you know, to the 80s in itself. And I would say that at the same time, well, on one hand, like it wears it proudly on its sleeve. Like it has some of the cliches from those kinds of movies, you know, from movies from that time, and it doesn't really subvert them. So those parts of the show, you know, are a little bit weak, but everything else, you know, is so good that, you know, it surpasses it. You know, it's definitely like an 80s homage, but it's not really like wink, nudge about it. You know, it's just that's the setting, that's the sort of like the aesthetic, but it's its own thing, and it's a good show. You know, it's pretty intriguing. Like the only thing I don't know, like I'm just about to watch the last episode, and I really can't tell if they mean for this. Like like for me, the idea that this could be like an anthology series, like it's like sort of like paying homage to those kinds of shows like Tales from the Crypt and Twilight Zone, but like having like one story per a whole season, those kinds of shows, like it could work like that. But so far, it's pretty close to wrapping up. So I'm really curious to see how they could develop it and how it will end. It's a good show. I can definitely recommend it. It's perfect for this season when you want something like fun and something that. At the same time, something that's a bit substantial in a way. And the show's got it. It's just perfect summer viewing. It definitely, it's again, it has those touches of Spielberg, Carpenter, Stephen King. All of that's rolled up.
But if it has women in it, Oscar, I have to tell you, I'm not interested.
Well,
I just have to embrace it now before I get railroaded later this week. So.
But women are the only ones who are funny.
I heard good things. I need to check it out. I know it's got Winona Ryder in it, and
yeah, and you know what? She's good, but at the same time, like, I really like her sometimes. I always like her, but at the same time, sometimes her performances annoy me a little bit. Like, and this movie, for good reason, she spends a lot of the movie like crying and screaming. And, for good reason, because this is not a spoiler because it's pretty much the whole premise of the show that her son goes missing. But it gets a little bit great after a while, but, she does a good job anyway. You can feel her pain. But it's, I would have liked the show to give her character more opportunity to allow her to, show a little more size of herself in a way, But at the same time, I guess it's okay that they don't really do that. But it's just a bit tiring when it cuts to her because I think that she's a bit shortchanged by the story, but she does well. And overall, again, it's a good show. It's a fun show. The kids are cool. They're actually, now I think about it, as far as kids characters go, they're some of the most interesting and fun I've seen in anything in a while. Like they're not really like stereotypes. They're sort of like their own guys. And the girl, like she was like the psychic girl, she's great. Like, man, she's they did a great job picking her for her role. And yeah, I can definitely recommend it if you get a chance, check it out. And it's like 8 episodes long, so it's not as long as other Netflix shows or other shows in general.
Well, in my opinion, Netflix has been kind of excelling at making these really well done shows that are Netflix exclusives, and that's kind of been something for me that has been exciting about the Netflix platform as opposed to just, being able to watch behind the magician's curtain or whatever while sitting in my underwear eating a bowl of cereal. So, God. What about you, Quinn? Have you been watching anything? All right. Good night.
Nope. Oh, wait, I saw Batman vs. Superman. That was a great movie. Classic. It's about as long as
yeah, but not half as good. And by that, I mean Ron is not half as good as Batman vs. Superman.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Totally.
Of course. Zack Snyder, Akira Kurosawa. Not even close comparisons. Oh, God. We just had to... somehow Batman vs. Superman has to be brought up all the time, huh?
Snyder's got him beat.
That's the reason I felt like I had to watch it, is just everybody keeps talking about it, but because it's terrible. And now I realize...
3 hours later, Quinn, now you realize it. Oh.
I think they should make a movie of just Jesse Eisenberg trying to put a Jolly Rancher in people's mouths. For like 2 hours.
It's like a jackass stunt. Get Party Boy out there.
I don't know, that was
Party
just so
Boy with
weird.
his,
I would watch the shit out of that movie.
It was just so weird, though, wasn't it? Like, that part, I don't know. That whole movie there was a lot of weird parts, but that was just, I don't know, that was so weird. That made me feel uncomfortable.
Well, I think that was the point, though.
Well, like, uncomfortable in a different way.
Oh, God.
I didn't think, I'm uncomfortable because this guy is so evil. It's like, I'm disgusted. It's like, this is uncomfortable because it's just
dumb.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of dumb.
Well, I didn't think, I like the movie. I like the theatrical cut.
That's surprising,
I like the
Oscar.
movie. And no, yeah, it's I like it, and I thought Eisenberg did a great job as Luthor, and those actually I like what he did with the character and those kinds of touches with Jolly Ranchers and stuff. It's like he just gave out this lime bowl vibe that I thought was perfect and made me hate him. So I think that way, that scene and, Eisenberg's performance in general, did his job.
Mike, shut yourself the door, Mike. Oh God. What have I been watching this week?
All right, guys, we're talking with you.
Jesus. What have I been watching this week? I haven't been watching really anything. It's been a real busy week. I saw Ghostbusters, but we'll be talking about that later. So, do you guys want to talk about Ron? You want to talk about the movie we're here to talk about? Let's do that.
Fuck it.
Film came out in 1985. It's directed by Akira Kurosawa. It is a retelling of King Lear as well as the legend of Daimyo Morai Motonari. The IMDb synopsis for the film is, set in Japan in the 16th century, an elderly warlord retires, handing over his entire empire to his 3 sons. However, he vastly underestimates how the newfound power will corrupt them or cause them to turn on each other and him. Mike, when was the first time you saw this film, and kind of what's your take on it?
I think I saw this for the first time probably 93, 94. Saw it in college. And yeah, I saw it on the big screen. It completely blew me away. Seeing it on TV really does this film injustice. I mean, those landscapes are just amazing, and some of those close-ups are amazing as well. But still, even on the small screen, the power of the story comes through, and I've seen it now probably 3 or 4 times. It's not necessarily one that I go back to as often as, say, something like a Yojimbo, which is much more of a fun film, even though it's got some weight to it as well. But it definitely holds up, and it is just, it blows me away every single time that I see it. You know, and I've seen this. I've never actually seen King Lear. I've not read the play. I've heard about the play, and I've heard lectures about the play and everything, so I feel that I know the play at least well enough to get answers on Jeopardy, those kind of things. But so I'm not sure how well this compares against Lear, and it's funny because I hear that Kurosawa wasn't even necessarily aware that the story had parallels. He was more in keeping with the story of the daimyo than he was with Lear. So it's kind of nice that there are these parallels between something that, you know, happened in Japanese culture and then something that Shakespeare wrote about, you know, probably maybe around the same time. I mean, if this was set in the 1600s, if the real story took place then, I would say, you know, somewhere around there, these incidents all collided.
Right. Yeah, no, I read that about Kurosawa as well, where he was like, oh, that's a thing? Like, this is, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious, you know, after reading some of it, that Kurosawa, like you said, he didn't set out to make a King Lear set in feudal Japan. Yeah.
Right. Obviously, he's aware of Shakespeare, and I'm sure that he was aware of King Lear, but it sounds like it just was like, oh, yeah, okay, right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, because he had done Throne of Blood, which was, Macbeth, and, you know, there were other Shakespearean elements, some of his other films, but, so yeah, it's interesting that there were those parallels between these different stories.
What about you, Quinn? What was your first time watching this film? What's your quick take on it?
It was like Mike. Although I think I'd only seen it once, about 3 or 4 years ago. Kind of randomly decided to watch it one night. I'd forgotten some of the details, so it was nice to rewatch it. Yeah, I'd heard about the thing about how his inspiration was supposed to be more about the Japanese warlord and the whole 3-arrow, you know, analogy. And I think for me, I mean, it definitely, I don't know how much he had Shakespeare on his mind when he was planning all this out. Things like this feel it's just kind of very beautiful, and it's a very nice movie. And although I think what also made it good too was it definitely seemed to have enough, I don't know, things that at least felt Japanese and distinctive to this movie in particular. I also haven't seen King Lear. Seen, you know, a lot of other Shakespeare ones, and somehow I haven't seen King Lear. So I don't know how close it is necessarily, but some of the other things, like I remember hearing something about, you know, the Lord, who's the main character of the movie, Hidetora, is that right? One of the most interesting things is, just throwing out an example, is, you know, whatever makeup or whatever they use on him.
It's based off of like Japanese theater makeup.
You know, that's a very distinctive thing to show emotion that, you know, would obviously not be in like a Western thing, I think, or it would be less likely. I feel like there's other things like that. The story is certainly, at least in its progression, seems to be carried by elements that seem Japanese, like, for instance, like K-Day, her whole family being slaughtered by Hidetora, and that's the reason that she wants revenge on the family. It's kind of like feels like a distinctive Japanese story element. So there's different elements of the story that feel distinctively Japanese, and so it doesn't feel to me like it's, stealing the story of King Lear or something, not having seen King Lear. But like I said, it's just very, seems like a very beautiful movie to me. We can get into it
Oscar?
more later, but...
Well, no, going on from that, I gotta say that, indeed, this is a beautiful film, and especially visually, like, the whole film is designed as if it was, like, each shot is almost like it's such a cliche to say this, but it just applies so perfectly to this film. Each shot is like a painting. Like, the colors in the set design, the costume design, are so perfectly chosen and contrasted, and like every single detail, like visually just it's just astounding, and in ways that are not exactly, I mean, it calls attention to itself, but in a good way. Like, it's trying to draw you in. It's almost like Kurosawa is trying to make it clear that this is some sort of fairy tale in a way, in its own kind of. You're watching like something that's like a fairy tale, like a folk tale, whatever you want to call it. It's
right.
Something that's beyond this reality, and it's just like visually the film is just perfect, and he has this long takes. I mean, like obviously there are cuts and everything, but for a movie that was made in '85, right? Like it's when they were starting to get into the advent, of fast cutting in Hollywood and all that, in mainstream film in general. Like, this movie mostly avoids and lets things just play out. Like, the filmmaking is just beautiful, like the blocking of scenes, the choice of shots, and it's it just transmits like the story so beautifully. And I gotta say, like, the acting in foreign films is a bit hard to judge sometimes because you don't understand the language. You cannot have like the perfect ear to see how to judge the acting sometimes, but in a way, but what matters overall is that the way it connects with you. And I think that, for example, in this movie, the acting was really good. Like, it was powerful. In a way, it was almost operatic, I would say. Like, this movie is definitely not going for realism. It's not, but it's going for something like it's a bit more operatic, and it works. Like, it really hits you. Like everything's like exaggerated to a bit, but it's never silly. It's never stupid. It's just enough to make you sure that that the story is just pulling you in and drawing you in and trying to tell you that this is a tale that's larger than life. But at the same time, it has matters that I think like people can connect with. It's a story about legacy. It's a story about it's a tragedy. Overall, it's a story about family too. And like, there's so much like going on in it. It's it's a very powerful film.
Yeah, I mean. You mentioned the thing about the painting in each scene looking like a painting. Kurosawa spent 10 years before this movie even came out storyboarding every scene as a painting. So, I mean, it really, and sometimes, you have certain filmmakers recently who are known for their visual style, and they're very visually arresting films. I'm trying to think of maybe like Baz Luhrmann. I mean, quality of his films notwithstanding, he has a very distinct visual style. And you look at Kurosawa and you look at this film, and it's just so distinct visually. And every scene has so much going on. And, it's a technically impressive film. And a lot of times, there are films that are technically impressive, but they leave something to be desired story-wise. Cough, cough, Avatar. It's a technically astounding film that they were able to finish it and get it, completed, and, props to Jim Cameron. But, I mean, you have a film like this where it's a technical masterpiece on top of being a good film, like actually an entertaining, well thought out and written film. And yeah, it's 2 hours, 42 minutes long, and it's in Japanese with no English dub. And that's going to turn off a lot of people that are prospective, looking for a film to watch. But it's a really good movie. And I kind of a dirty secret. I've never seen a Kurosawa film before.
Oh my god!
Mike has been here 3 times now for 3 separate. I've never seen this kind of movie before in the span of like 2 months.
But how was this for like an intro to him? Like for you? Like
I mean I don't have kind of like a measuring like point, right? Like I haven't seen Yojimbo or Seven Samurai or Throne of Blood. So I enjoyed this movie. Is it a little on the long side? Yeah. Could it have been longer? I think this is something Mike and I were talking about. I feel like the end of the movie wraps up way too fast. One of the major characters in the movie just like dies off screen. But I enjoyed the movie. But as for like compared to other Kurosawa films or as a Kurosawa film, I think it's good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like I think like the biggest like for example, would you be interested now in checking out other films by him? Like now that you've seen this.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean that's I think that's always like the perfect like you can tell when you introduce like a lot of people consider this movie to be one of Kurosawa's masterpieces, and I think that's a good way of judging it. Like if you haven't seen a Kurosawa film before, if you watch this and you just say, well, I think I could check out other films of his now because I like this one. That's a great intro. I think even if this one is more of his latter period. Like I think this was like his third to last film. I think it was very late in the game for him.
He was in his mid-70s when he directed this film.
Yeah, and now I think if you wanted to, if you want to, you can get excited about checking out like Seven Samurai and Ikiru, Rashomon, so many other movies he's made, and I think that's a cool thing about watching a movie like this. That's when you can tell that this is a masterpiece because you can just watch it and it's great in its own right. I mean, you don't have to compare it to other Kurosawa movies. You can just say, "Oh, I watched it. And it's a great film," and you can watch the rest now if you want to, and if that gets you excited for it, I think that means the movie works, even if it's again like late in the game, and even if it's not necessarily reflective of other films he's made.
I think I killed Mike though. I think Mike is dead. I think I scared him, shocked him. I think I shocked him into death.
No, I'm still just reeling over the Batman versus Superman stuff, but I'm okay with it for now.
Jesus, that was 20 minutes ago. Yeah, I mean, I had never had any exposure similar to, blaxploitation films or, the French surrealist films. I just never had any exposure to them.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much Kurosawa I haven't seen. Like, you just mentioned Yojimbo. I haven't seen Yojimbo. I haven't seen any of those movies. And I really want to. Like, again, because I've seen all the movies with the Man with No Name, which are like practically remakes from those movies, and I haven't seen like the Jimbo, and I haven't seen there's I haven't seen Throne of Blood, I haven't seen the Hidden Fortress, which inspired Star Wars. There's a lot of stuff I haven't seen by him, but I would say that with the few films I've seen of his, Kurosawa was a master. Just one look at any of his movies, and I think Ran is a great example. You can tell you're watching a film by someone who was very skilled and just a master, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he is kind of in the lexicon of great film directors. It's not that I had like purposefully avoided his films. It's just I had never seen them. So
yeah, I'm not getting that from you. For example, there's so many filmmakers that I haven't been able to catch on to just yet. There's so many movies to see and so many directors to follow. And so it's just cool that we get the chances to check out these movies. That's a great thing about the time we live in now, that I think you can just go on Netflix or on Hulu and check them out, and that's sort of like the great thing about this time we live in now, that we can get a chance to do that. Yeah,
it's only through luck of the draw that I know Kurosawa's work as well as I do. It was kind of a twofold thing. One was one of my housemates in college was like, "Oh, let's go see this movie that's playing at Top of the Park," which was a parking garage, and they would have summer festivals there, and it's called Yojimbo. That sounds hilarious, just the name of it. And it's like, oh, sure, let's go see it. And it ended up being fantastic. And then we had several Kurosawa retrospectives at U of M, so got to engage in those. And also we had a really kick-ass Kurosawa section at one of the local video stores. So I was able to check out Hidden Fortress on VHS, see Seven Samurai on the big screen. So it was just pretty much, working my way through a lot of his filmography. There's still gaping holes. Like, I don't think I've ever sat down and watched all of Redbeard. There's a couple other films. There's movies that I'd like of his I would like to go back to and watch again. Like, I remember really liking The Bad Sleep Well, but I haven't checked it out in probably 20 years. But there are still other films, especially his early films, like before Straw Dog, like Those Who Step on Tiger's Tail, and those kind of movies that I would like to check those out. But yeah, it was just luck of the draw that I was able to see so many Kurosawa, and it's. So he's not necessarily a blind spot like some other directors, but I definitely have those. Like, and it's just been a matter of like, oh, now I really need to sit down and watch more Rossellini or Antonioni and these kind of directors. It's like we all have these, gaping blind spots in our cinema lexicon.
Yeah.
Where does Kurosawa? Where does this film compare to Kurosawa's other films?
This is one of his
that
best.
You've seen.
I think this might be my favorite that I've seen, although I've only seen 4 or 5, I think.
Well, it's kind of like that whole thing I was saying. I don't go back to this one as often as I do others, but yeah, like, this is a masterpiece, and this is up there with, like, Seven Samurai. Seven Samurai I don't go back to all the time either. I tend to enjoy more of... For some reason, I love High and Low, and I love Yojimbo and Sanjuro. And I think I love Sanjuro and Yojimbo because there's more elements of fun to them. And he could do very fun things and funny things. But yeah, this is up there.
Yeah, I would caution you, although I think you'll be able to appreciate this possibly more than others. I don't know. Is since Kurosawa, he's garnered so much respect, particularly from, film critics and people who have made movies, since done all this for so long, since his filmmaking period. There are a lot of people who have taken elements from his films, right? Talking about Hidden Fortress and Star Wars, and, there are a lot of other examples. But I feel like it's almost the thing you get when you go back and you listen to the Beatles music, and it feels like it's just like there are all these other bands that have come since, and the Beatles almost seem like not that great because other bands have, taken elements from what they've done and then improved upon them. So I feel like you just have to have that perspective where you have to appreciate it for what it is, and recognize that, there are other people who have taken elements from his stories or, his filmmaking techniques or something like that. And, maybe they've really explored that in depth or improved upon something in some way that he's done. And so it can feel kind of, like old.
In the way that things are now, you have movies that, like you said, they take some.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Something that's come before it, and they rework it in a way that might make the original source material not seem as
original.
Yeah. Obviously, that happens all the time. That's just how writing goes, obviously. But I think particularly with Kurosawa having, garnered a lot of respect, a lot of, influential filmmakers have seen his films and taken elements from his films and put it in theirs. It's something that you have to particularly watch with him. And you just have to kind of, be able to, I think, put yourself in the frame from which the movie was made and enjoy it sometimes potentially, but I mean, they're definitely good in their own right. It's just, that's another thing that I think can hurt it, in addition to what you mentioned earlier about it being, a film. A lot of his films, at least from what I've seen, don't have, dubs. They're subbed in Japanese. They can be longer movies,
all things that detract from casual movie
right,
watchers.
Exactly.
One thing that's nice about Kurosawa is that he's very easy for Westerners to get into, because so much of his material, so much of the stuff that he's done has been based on Western material. Like I was talking about High and Low, which is actually based on an Ed McBain book. Yojimbo has its roots in a Dashiell Hammett story. So, and even when it comes to what we're talking about today, you could say, oh yeah, it's very Shakespeare. So obviously it's pretty easy for us to relate to. It's not like some sort of really cryptic, Japanese cultural thing that no Westerner could get in there and unwrap and understand, because he's able to take stuff from Western culture, he even with The Idiot, he took a Russian novel and he was taking Shakespeare, and he was able to take all these different sources and kind of reinterpret them with a Japanese eye. And so it was nice it's nice for us now on the other side of this that we're able to go, oh, okay, yeah, I can really understand this. I can get my claws into this kind of stuff. It's not as obtuse to a Westerner as something like, I don't know, an Ozu or something, where it's really kind of more like it's kind of like watching a comedy in another language, where you're just like, yeah, I don't really understand this necessarily. Like seeing some of these, like, sorry to go back to Italy, but seeing like an Italian comedy and you're like, it might be funny for those folks, but it's not really working for me. Sometimes seeing an Ozu film, it's just like, that might be really important to these people, but for me, I'm not relating that well. So unless you have the backstory, but I don't think you necessarily have to have a whole lot of backstory to come into one of these movies, to come into a Kurosawa, because, well, one, they've got a lot of Western flavor to them, and two, they've just got a lot of stuff there at the surface where we don't have to go, okay, well, first I need to know about the entire feudal history of Japan. Now I need to know about horses and how horses work in feudal Japan. Now I need to know about Mount Fuji and the atmosphere there. And just, you don't need to have a tutorial before you sit down and watch pretty much any Kurosawa film.
And I think that that's something that I really appreciated about this film, is that it doesn't feel like that kind of film. It doesn't feel like the kind of film where I'm having to look up stuff.
Right.
And the English language translation that I watched was really well done. Obviously, it's Criterion Collection, so that obviously helps. Criterion is kind of the go-to for, I would say, hard to find movies, stuff that's never been on DVD, Blu-ray before.
That used to be the case. I think they're getting away from that now.
Well,
though.
I mean, don't forget, they also, they have Armageddon as part of the Criterion Collection.
Now they have Boyhood. It's just like, really? Come on, guys.
But that's, that helps with this film. Like you said, there's a lot in this film that doesn't require the audience to do a lot of searching around for information. And that's a nice change from other foreign language films that have that problem. And I think that pushes a lot of casual to middle of the road movie fans away from watching them. Like, I always feel very hesitant to suggest foreign language films to people that I'm not like 100% sure are really into movies, because I'll be like, oh, you made me watch this movie where I have to read the entire time. Oh my God.
God.
I'm so sorry.
If you know people like that, you should just not talk to them anymore.
I fucking agree.
I mean, that's really a good rule of thumb.
If you are an idiot, I cannot be friends with you.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, yeah, I have a very low tolerance for stuff like that, so I agree.
Okay, here's the thing about being a Mexican, especially in Mexico, that pretty much every movie we get, it's subtitled. At least they used to be. Like, you go to the movies to see just about anything, and it used to happen that kids' movies were the ones that got dubs, but now that seems to be changing. And for example, I live on a border town, and it seems like stupid to do that, because people come from the States to watch movies here because they think often the movies are cheaper. They, the tickets are cheaper. Sometimes the quality of the theaters is even better than the ones in the States, whatever. And we're used to subtitles, and this is very odd to me that now that seems to be changing in the sense that movie theaters here are pushing dub so much. Like for example, I want to see The Shallows, and for example, the only way to see that movie, with Spanish subtitles and with subtitles, is to watch it in 4D. I'm like, why? Why isn't it available in normal theaters? It's with subtitles, and just that, why would anyone want to see, that movie dubbed? And I don't know, but my whole point is that, for example, when you're in a foreign country where most of the movies that come in theaters, they're in English. That language for us is foreign. So we're used to subtitles and we like them, so that most of us prefer them. So it's that makes me wonder if it's that way everywhere. Like people, when you have the culture of when most of the movies you have to see are subtitled, that makes you less what can I say? Less close-minded about seeing something that's foreign and not having to watch it in with subtitles. And I gotta say that sometimes that what happens is that I think that even dubs sometimes have made the mistake of making people, at least in the way I've seen it in the United States, they made people be even warier about watching a foreign film because sometimes as dubs, they're just bad. They're not up to snuff. And they can ruin what's basically a good movie.
Well, and that's something I know that I've talked with a lot of people about is, and I think we've talked about it before, Mike, whether you should watch a foreign film in the language that it's in and just read the subtitles or a dub. And I mean, I would always rather watch a film with subtitles because the dubs are so dodgy at best.
The only movies I will watch dubbed very willingly are the ones that were kind of meant to be dubbed. So like the Italian films of the 60s, 70s, so like the spaghetti westerns, or maybe some of I know a lot of the Hong Kong films were dubbed, but they're usually dubbed by the actors that are there. Usually a lot of these movies that are being dubbed on purpose or have to be dubbed are dubbed because of conditions like studios being in a really loud area. So that was one of the kind of things when it came to Italian films was, hey, we're right here by the airport. We're not going to be able to sync sound. And also we have this international cast. So it's like, okay, so I'll watch something like that dubbed. But yeah, if it was shot in a particular language, I want to watch it in that particular language.
Let's talk a little bit about the performances in the film. I know, Quinn, you mentioned Tatsuya Nakadai, who plays Hidetori, and the No style, N-O-H, not N-O, style makeup that his character starts to kind of progress farther and farther into as the film goes on. What kind of performances stuck out to y'all in the film?
That guy, what was it, Kiyoami or Kiyoani? Kiyoami, right? The fool, the jester, kind of. He had to play a pretty prominent role. He goes from the fool to the sane one. He plays a pretty big part in that. And that one, I don't know, that one's a little bit harder to judge for me. Maybe that one goes down to, I think as Oscar was maybe saying, was it Oscar or Mike? Was talking about, it's really hard with it being in a different language to necessarily judge it, but seemed to be able to pull that from his performance. Him going from sort of the fool to the reasonable one, I guess.
Well, and that's because he's paired with
him for the whole movie.
Yeah, he's paired with Hidetora, the King Lear of the film. He's paired with him throughout the film, so you get to see the two characters juxtaposed against one another pretty much from the get-go, which I think it helps with the Koyami performance because at times in the film it felt he's supposed to be a fool, but it felt even a little too far. And again, I don't know if the lack of translation or the lack of my ability to perceive his performance in his original language. I don't know if that is maybe why I kind of found it a little over the top, or that's maybe what he was going for. But
I think he was going for it.
Right. I mean, they balance each other out later in the film so well that any kind of early on issues where I was like, all right, this is a little too much. Any of those early on issues I had kind of dissipate when him and Hidetori in the middle to end of the film are kind of, sitting in that volcanic area, and Hidetori's kind of staring off into the distance, wide-eyed, glassed over, and just kind of talking about the visions that he's having. And Koyami is like, what are you talking about? Like, this is, your sins are finally coming back to haunt you.
Well, I think that whole fool character, not necessarily being familiar with King Lear as much as I should be, but I definitely think he's there supposed to be able to. He's the truth teller throughout the entire thing. He's the one who warns people at the very beginning, like, this is a really bad plan, and he manages to do that all through being such a big, grand performance, so over the top with all of his actions. And I love that it's this guy Peter who's playing the role. Peter is this great. He's very, very androgynous. He's played women in different films before. One of his first roles was in this art film called Funeral Parade of Roses, where I believe he plays a female character. And I love he's got the crazy hair and the crazy outfit and everything. And so he's just the lowest echelon of all of these people, but he's the one who knows the truth from the get-go. But I think he hides that with that kind of over-the-top performance, so he's able to get away with saying these what would be considered outrageous, but basically telling the king that he's full of shit.
The Hidetora character he's the tragic villain of the film, because Lady Kadei is taking revenge for her family being wronged. And she's kind of the hero of the film, but obviously the film doesn't position her as such because of the way that it kind of juxtaposes her versus the weak, not spineless, but the weak, malleable character of Jiro.
Right. When there's also like this religious or like supernatural overtone in this movie, right? When they mention the Buddha, and like obviously there's all these metaphors of Hidetora like walking through hell. Right? Mm-hmm. At being like, the movie is like his descent into hell. And so it almost felt natural to me that Lady Kadei, who to me she almost looked like she was supposed to be like a demon or something, ends up being, it certainly acted like one, ends up being the one in a movie where you're going through hell. That a demon would take over the story. Because Taro, for instance, I didn't feel like there was, a whole lot of characterization with him. Well, I don't know if that's the right word. His character doesn't control the story. I shouldn't say no characterization. Kadei tells him what to do. He does it. He ends up dying. Even with Jiro, he just he listens a lot to what his advisors have to say. And then Kadei takes over that role. And then, as you said, he dies off screen. But he's not really in control throughout much of the movie. And, I guess there's Saburo, but he's just off screen a lot. And so, it felt the almost like, I don't know, religious. It's not really religious though. Kind of thing.
But it's trying to say something. It's trying to say something like that.
That kind of framed it.
I mean, they wouldn't have mentioned it. They wouldn't have had Tsuramaru talking about the whole thing with the Buddha and him and Lady Sue being that the Buddha, being a part of their kind of what they're doing throughout the film. There's a lot of religious overtones.
And there's Hidetora looking like a ghost when he's traveling, when he's running from the castle, and pretty much all the time after that. What else is there? There's so many things that they put into that.
And his makeup, his costume and makeup in the film is striking later in the film.
It's pretty intense, definitely.
Here's the thing. The way I see it is that, again, all you bring up good points, and I think there are points that, that I agree with. In a way, this movie is fundamentally very selective about the point of view. And it's very Shakespearean in that regard, that sometimes it's very focused on one character, and it's more about how everything falls apart around him and how he reacts to that instead of going into the other stories. Started with the sons, and overall, it's done in a very sort of like a mythical folktale kind of way, where, for better, I don't think this discredits this movie in any way, but I can see why it can be a problem for you, Chris, because it makes it seem like characters are more like pieces of chess. That's kind of like being moved around and manipulated. Yeah. But overall, I think this is kind of like the fabric of tragedies, especially Shakespearean tragedies, where characters kind of end up, as you guys have said, reaping what they saw. Like it's fate, it's a wheel of fate, it's a wheel of destiny that these characters end up, pretty much getting screwed over. And for example, I think that sort of like this weird blur that the sons become, and in a way in terms of the storytelling, I think that that's sort of like Kurosawa's way. And again, it's a very Shakespearean thing of showing, kind of like showing like family as a unity falling apart. Like, it doesn't really matter what happened to the sons individually, but so much as a unit, they fell apart. Like that's something that's significant in the life of the main character that has fallen apart. And regardless of if how they fell apart on their own way, together, that's the point. That's the whole point, that it's over. It's over for them.
Well, and there's always that saying, the sins of the father are, revisited upon the children. And you mentioned that, Mike, but this is really the sins of the father revisited on the father. Uh-huh. He goes, the Hidetora character goes insane. And then he kind of comes right back at the end, but I think that his character arc is the one that I was the most invested in. But, I really think that the ending of this movie is long. This movie feels long, but I do think it could have been longer, because it just, I don't know. There's just the whole end of the film is just too cut and dried, too neatly.
I don't know. It seemed to wrap up nicely for me. It took care of the characters. Yes, the one guy died off screen, but that kind of felt Shakespearean to me. Like, I guess it felt more like a play in those cases, and especially the whole idea of him coming back and not being insane for a few minutes, being reunited with the one son who he thought was a jerk but ended up being the good son, and then having his son taken away from him, and then wrapping up the other storylines. I don't know, that really worked for me, the way that it was. And yeah, I can see your point as far as it maybe being a little quick, but I don't know.
For me, the story was about Hidetora descending into his own personal hell, and so the movie sort of revolves around him, and it's not really like an epic tale that, really follows all these different characters. They're just all in there to sort of they're all characters in his personal hell. So that was how I saw it, though, but it's a very, long, complicated movie. You can easily see it being taken different ways, I guess.
You mentioned, Mike, that it is very Shakespearean in the way that it wraps up. Because, in most Shakespeare tragedies, a lot of the main characters, they don't tend to survive. And, Hidetora with he dies of broken heart, whatever you want to say. What I found to be something that I really enjoyed about the film, and something that Kurosawa clearly did on purpose, was showing how destructive the firearm is.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
In this setting of feudal Japan.
That's very striking, right? Like, are there any, trying to think back, what on-screen deaths happen that aren't from a firearm rather than,
well, major characters, Saburo and Taro both died to guns.
Yeah, feels very.
And it's one of those things where you've got all these guys running around with swords, but then you've got two of the main characters or the main players getting taken out by guns, and it's you just kind of I reading some of the stuff that I read, Kurosawa was trying to make some sort of statement on nuclear weapons. I'm not sure how much you want to read into that. I feel like that's reading into it a lot. But the juxtaposition of the gun is not something that you see often in samurai films. And when you do, it's normally the Westerners show up with guns, not samurais using guns against one another. And it was one of those things where it stuck out as like, wow, okay, it's showing the destructive power of the firearm in how it can resolve some of these conflicts that otherwise require hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, it felt more like vicious and, impersonal compared to, using swords like in other samurai movies. Right. And just how shitty people can be to each other. Definitely carried that theme for the movie.
That montage that we get towards the beginning of the film after we have everything set up with the who's getting what castle and when they finally start to battle one another, that whole montage, that score is fantastic, and just seeing it all without words, seeing it all without sound effects even, and just having that score over that battle and having our main character just sitting there in that room as there's so much destruction going on around him. I thought that was one of the most powerful moments of the entire film.
Or there's another a really striking shot in the film, and Kurosawa cuts away, obviously, because the movie has blood in it, but it's not a gory film. But it's a concubine she's like holding a knife, and she's about to jam her face onto it.
It cuts away.
And it cuts away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that, like you said, Mike, that whole scene with the destruction and Hidetora watching all of his concubines killing themselves or dying I think it's the best scene in the film for me, because it's just so well done. And it just highlights the skill for me that I've heard about Kurosawa having. It's like, okay, and now I get it.
Oh yeah, he's firing on all cylinders. I mean, the guy's what'd you say, 70 years old at this point?
So he's like mid-70s,
he still is, he knows what he's doing.
And then another scene that really stuck out to me was when Lady Kadei gets murdered at the end of the film. Like, that's like one of the last scenes in the film, when she gets her head cut off. I love it. It's so... I mean, I assumed she was going to die, but I mean, it's so brutal and quick. You barely even see him pull his sword out to kill her. Kurogane he's like, and she's dead, and then you just see the spray of blood behind him.
Yeah, and I don't know who first started that kind of, what would you call that? Like a fire hose blood effect. I know that Kurosawa had done it at least in Sanjuro. And that, I love the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, and that is just lousy with those effects. Just so many, and I love them. I love to see that arterial nozzle spray go off, and that was fantastic to see that blood just spray up onto that wall. So beautiful and so brutal at the same time.
Yeah, it really, that's the kind of the final big thing in the film is her character dying, and it is such a great scene. It's real. I mean, her character and Mikao Harada, who portrays her. I mean, her and Hidetoro are my favorite parts of the film. They're great. I mean, their characters are so kind of complementary, and you understand the anger that she has towards the Ichimonji family. Mm-hmm. And at the end, she's just like so defiant to the end. He's like, you destroyed our family. And she's like, no, I know. That was the point. And he's like, oh, and then he just cuts her head off. So she's just, it's that scene is great. And the scene with the concubines and that whole kind of war montage is pretty fantastic as well.
Yeah.
And the first scene with the arrows, which kind of sets the stage for the entire film.
Mm-hmm. And the one son being such a jerk off, like, well, I can break these 3 arrows.
But he's right. But ultimately, he's right.
He's the other fool who's right.
Yeah.
He's like, but I can break him. He snaps him over his knee. It's like, well, there you go. Oh man. Starting with Mike, skip it or watch it, and best performance.
Geez. Yeah, definitely watch it. And like I said, I really liked Peter as the fool. I would say he's for me, the best performance in it.
What about you, Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, well, definitely watch. Obviously, I would say even if you're a casual watcher, you've never seen one of his films, just like you did, Chris, I think it's probably a good one to get started on with him, just because I really like this movie a lot, personally. And, I mean, best performance, I'll just go with K-Day, just because she's, like, so evil, and she does so many things that seem to communicate that well, regardless of whatever language barrier or whatever there is with the subtitles. Pretty evil, pretty wicked. Definitely gives it part of that feeling of, it being this hellish sort of place.
Yeah. What about you, Oscar?
For me, best performance is Tatsuya Nakadai as Hidetora. And, he has to carry the film, but the way he transformed, the way he portrayed the arc of Hidetora, just from the beginning to all the way to the end, that's the way he transformed, and kudos again to Kurosawa and the crew of the movie who did the makeup and, all the stuff like that. Just a transformation of him as a character is just so well done. And so, again, I think that you need to understand the language and you can still get it. You still absolutely get it. And definitely watch it. Definitely, this is a film that must be watched.
Yeah, like Quinn mentioned, I had never seen a Kurosawa film before this one, and I think that this is a pretty good starting place, especially a lot of people coming out of high school, kind of showing my age a little bit, but a lot of people coming out of high school are fairly familiar with Shakespeare. So the kind of the themes of this film and what this film is trying to say, I think makes a lot of sense and is pretty understandable for casual film goers. And I have to echo Oscar as well. Tatsuya Nakadai, he's my favorite part of the film, and the makeup is so well done, and it doesn't detract as much and kind of seem as over the top as I was thinking it might be, having kind of read about the film before I watched it, that there was going to be this kind of no style makeup on two of the characters, but it's really well done, and his performance does not get lost under the makeup either. So, what do you guys think it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I don't know, 100%.
Yeah, I was thinking
probably
100%.
Pretty freaking high.
Freaking high also because a lot of these older movies, tend to have those kinds of ratings. Tend to be more towards the extreme positive, I think.
Yeah, I would say definitely critics are probably way up there, and public, I'd say they're pretty up there as well.
96% critic, 95% audience. Akira Kurosawa's sprawling epic take on King Lear should be required viewing for fans of westerns, war movies, or period films in general.
Or I would add Shakespeare adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say people who like Shakespeare. Yeah.
Yeah, don't watch this if you have a report due for King Lear, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Talking about some of the things that happen in this movie, I don't think would be super helpful.
You're talking about his sons.
It's not one for one. Yeah, it's not like Branagh's Hamlet where it's like one for one. So
I mean, I really like the part in King Lear where King Lear is like wearing no makeup, and such a good part.
And all of a sudden, there's like Japanese people running around. Yeah, best part of King Lear. So before I talk about the next Kulturecast, Mike, what's going on over at the Projection Booth podcast? What do you guys got cooking up?
Oh, geez. Well, preparing for an episode on Dick Tracy coming up here pretty soon. And, that'll be interesting to talk about. A very beautiful, but perhaps empty film. I'm not sure. I mean, at least Ron had style and substance. So, and then, other good stuff coming up. We will have our episode on Vertigo coming up in August. I'm very excited for that one. I've been reading way too much about Vertigo for the last 6 months or more. So it'll be good to finally be able to put that one to bed, as they say.
And Sugar Hill's coming up as well.
Sugar Hill dropping this week. It'll be pretty epic. It's almost 3 hours long. Can you believe that? And I cut out an hour and put that as a separate interview. Yeah.
Oh, geez. That was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it.
We'll have to talk more about how this was your first blaxploitation film and how Ron's your first Akira Kurosawa. We'll definitely have to try to come up with some good Kurosawa for you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Kulturestash. And if you like the Kulturecast, head on over to cultureshock.com/Kulturecast. Mike, where can people find the Projection
Over
Booth
at
Podcast?
projectionboothpodcast.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at ProBoothCast. That's it.
And big thanks to Oscar and Quinn for sitting down and talking Ron with us. You too as well, Mike.
Well, always thanks for having me back.
And if you want to kick some money our way to help us pay the bills over at Culture Shocked, head on over to patreon.com/culture_shocked. Every little bit helps. That song you're hearing at the beginning and end of the Culture Cast is Lament by Wavoka off their self-titled first album. And this Thursday, we're going to be taking controversy head on and jumping right into talking about Ghostbusters 2016. Matt Campagna will be joining me, and I know already that he has a very different opinion about the film than I do. So I am looking forward to sitting down and talking about Ghostbusters with him. So make sure to check that one out.